we are live. So thank you everyone for attending today's workshop, and for everyone watching us on YouTube. Today's workshop is We Are Family, doing business with sister agencies. This is our second year running these workshops, and we're very happy and grateful to have our sister agencies working with us on that. So thank you so much to our sister agencies for helping with this workshop and getting this going to our vendor community. So today's workshop, so these are the different six sister agencies that make up this workshop: the Chicago Public Schools, City Colleges of Chicago, Public Building Commission, Chicago Housing Authority, Chicago Park District, and the Chicago Transit Authority. Our guest speakers for today are, or actually here, these are the dates, sorry about that. So our April 4th today is the Chicago Public Schools and City Colleges of Chicago. In July, on my birthday, we will have PBC, Public Building Commission, and the Chicago Housing Authority. And in October, we'll have the Chicago Park District and Chicago Transit Authority. The workshops take place here in this room, in the Bid and Bond room. For those watching us online, it's at City Hall, 121 North LaSalle on the 11th floor in room 1103. And the workshops are scheduled currently to start at 3:15. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on over to our first speaker. Thank you all.
Afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Now, so I'm relatively new to Chicago since May of last year. But when I got here, it was really nice out. I'm still waiting. How much longer?
We don't know.
Huh?
July 4th.
Yeah. Right. No, we'll say July 11th for Millie's birthday. Right. Yeah, there you go. All right. Everyone in the sign-in list and online, we're holding you to that.
Okay.
Yeah. But welcome. It's a pleasure for us to be here and introduce ourselves and give an overview and more specifically try to answer any questions you may have about Chicago Public Schools. So we are very proud to be the third largest school district in the country. And right now, let's see, all right, we got the numbers right. Over 370,000 students on 660 schools. And one of the great things that we like to share the story about our kids, because CPS is all about kids, is over the last 2 years, our reading and math scores, both on nationalized tests, have gone up 10% per year. Our on track to graduate rate, which is something we measure for our freshmen to say, you know, are their grades, is their attendance, how are they doing, are they on track to graduate? Well, that's up actually 14% on an absolute basis over the last 5 years. Even better than that, our graduation rate is up 18% over the last 5 years on an absolute basis. So last year we graduated 78% of our students, which is great news. That resulted in, over the last, again, 5-year history, our students have earned, 5 years ago, they earned about $246 million, $260 million in scholarships. Last year, our students earned $1.2 billion in scholarships. So scholarships earned are up over $1 billion over the last 5 years. So these are things that we're really, really proud of. And we want everyone to know the success we're having within the school district and for our kids. And one of the things that we do from the operational side, because it is all about kids, we've translated that into how we focus, which is an effort to keep improving district services. Kids, right? So from that point of view, we work with our suppliers to try to identify how can we improve our relationships with our suppliers by 10%. And whether that means 10% new ideas, different ways to do business that could benefit our students, our teachers, our administrators, and our parents. Ways to eliminate waste by 10% per year, because as I mentioned earlier, our key measures as a district are up 10%. Another area that we're looking to get 10% improvement per year from our supply base is on our minority and women business initiatives. And one stat, an important stat about the district is 80% of our students are classified as economically disadvantaged. And the home environment for kids is critical to supporting them in their effort to be in school on time every day and be paying attention to the curriculum material. So it's really, really important that we keep trying to put more jobs into our community because parents who are unemployed or underemployed, it has an impact on our kids. And another thing that we really want to focus on our MWBE, and particularly reinvesting in the city of Chicago, is, raise your hand if you've heard of the mayor's Learn, Plan, Succeed program for CPS, which is by 2020, if our students don't have a college admission letter or a letter of employment, or a letter saying they've joined the service, this armed service, or that they're in a gap year program, they won't get a certificate of graduation from CPS. So that's Learn, Plan, Succeed. Well, we recognize that 100% of our students won't go to college, and they may not choose to go to the military. But, for our students to be motivated if they aren't college material or aren't military bound is to see that there's a job out there for them. And so that's another reason why we really want to emphasize and grow our MWBE participation, not only for the parents but also for our students, so that as they go through school, they know the hard work will pay off in a good job in the city of Chicago. So that's what we're about. It's continuous improvement. It's about focus on the kids. Within the wide variety of purchases, it's not on our slide here, but our budget, our annual budget's about $5.7 billion. And so within that, what we call our addressable spend or actionable spend is in about the $1.2 billion range of things that come up for bid and that we go out on solicitations for. A big part of our chunk, or almost $700 million of our $5.7 billion budget, is money that goes to charter schools, for example. So you might say, well, what's that money allocated to? There are a lot of what we call non-procurement expenditures in that total $5.7 billion budget. Just another, always like to share good news when we're here. One of the chronic things about Chicago schools has been, the big budget deficit. In fact, a year ago, we had a $1.5 billion budget deficit to that $5.7 billion operating budget. But with all the hard work, thanks to the mayor, thanks to the lobbying efforts in Springfield, we finally gotten a state budget, and CPS actually has a balanced budget for this year, and we're within $50 million of the $5.7 billion for next year. So that's all great news for the district and the city of Chicago. What that means is we can do a better job about planning what our needs are. So instead of releasing our budgets to the schools in July when we're trying to figure out how we scrape together the last pennies to get the schools open, we're actually going out and getting all the information has been provided to the schools. So by the end of this next month, we'll have complete budgets rolled out to the schools. So we'll be able to do better teacher planning, better curriculum planning. That also translates into better expenditure planning for the year. Okay. Any questions about CPS? Where we are, what we're doing, all the great news that we have to share.
Congratulations.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's a lot of hard work, and that's what we talk about on our kids program. Is we're advocates of collaborative commerce versus adversarial commerce. And the more we get people motivated about the mission, the purpose, and how we're doing it, we think we'll attract the real positive energy to figure out how to do things better together. So that's, really kind of the way we roll at CPS. So if an organization wants to do business with us, there are a couple main ways. And so the first would be for a department chief or principal, network chief, or department head. They can provide sponsorship documentation. So they would say, oh, I need After School Matters to do an after-school program. They would submit an application or submit a referral to the procurement group, which we would then validate, collect appropriate information on the disclosure forms, and make sure you have a W-9 if it's a position that requires contact with kids, that background searches are done. Also to meet for risk management, make sure the appropriate level of insurance for the type of engagement, because we want to make sure all liabilities and risks are covered when we establish people for business. The other way is through a solicitation, a public bid. So we do a variety of RFXs, right? So we do bids which are awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder at a price point. We will do RFPs, which are requests for proposal, which are published in the newspaper, have an open period, and we have a review committee of users and other representatives, non-departmental representatives from the district, who can provide a neutral voice to be the voice of the community on that. Or we do requests for quotation, which is we validate pools of suppliers for future use, but that way we collect capability and we get the proper vetting of, again, the insurance levels, the student contact or not, and umbrella terms and conditions set up, so that it's much easier for user departments to then, when they identify a need, instead of having to go through the lengthy RFP process, which is one of the challenges of being a public entity, as we are with the Illinois State Board of Education rules, which are a little different than city procurement rules or other sister agency rules. We have a different set of, a little different rule book on how we have to do our bids and how we have to evaluate them and go to market. So a complicated RFP can take from the time we issue it till the time we actually sign the contracts. Believe it or not, can take up to 12 months, right? It's just that rigorous a review process. And that's why we try to set up as many pools as possible using the RFQ format to validate a group of suppliers against a category of need, and then we're able to then have user groups that can go say, oh, I need, again, After School Matters. They're already set up in the system. They go out and get the pricing. We validate it from procurement, and then they're ready to go.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Going back to that other slide. So
Which one?
The one you were just doing.
Yeah, this one?
So for instance, we do LED lighting. So if a school says, we want to change these classrooms to lighting, and
Yeah.
they send you a request, we would have had to have done an RFQ to be in front of you?
Not necessarily.
How would you know to
Yeah.
look at?
Okay, so let's see. Well, that's right here. All right. So, and these are the spend limits set by the Illinois State Board of Education. Whoops. Wow, I lost the batteries. I messed you up there, Millie. Yeah. So it's good. I'm going to talk about this slide as long as I need anyway to get the batteries reinserted in the remote. But so these limits are, oops. So they're spending limits. So a school if it's a $10,000 is a biddable item, right? So biddable means it's generally commonly available. It's not a unique good or service. So, for example, LED lights may be considered biddable. So a school could could issue a purchase order to you so a principal says, okay, I want ABC LED company to provide service. I want to sponsor them. And then they could spend up to $10,000 with you without having to go through the public bid process. But that school is capped. They can't spend more than $10,000 in a year with you without a contract on that. If they tried to do that, if they tried to give you a PO for $9,999 and 2 weeks later gave you another $5,000 PO, that would be called stringing. And that's a violation of our rules, and we'd probably debar them if something like that happened.
You said we can't go to them, so how do we get
No, you can go to them.
Oh.
No.
Your slide said that we cannot approach the schools, they have to sponsor us.
No, that's to sponsor them.
Okay.
But if you go to them and they say, oh, I like your LED services, they could sponsor you. Yeah, right. So it's unlikely that if you just walked into a school and said, if they had no need for LED lighting, and you walked in and said, will you please sponsor me? They'd say, well, I don't need LED lighting. Why should I sponsor you? Right? So there needs to be a need from the user to sponsor you. And then the other is there's a $25,000 spend limit is on things that are considered under state statute non-biddable. And non-biddable would be consulting services. It's a unique skill or service. Software and computer devices also fall under non-biddable. So in that case, a school could write a purchase order up to $25,000 without having to go through a bid process or get a centralized contract. If you are a strategic supplier, and that would mean either an RFQ or an RFP or a bid, if we award a contract to you for your good or service, then you would then be listed on our marketplace, which is how the schools can go into the system and say, oh, again, After School Matters, they're approved provider. And if they are approved, there is no limit on how much a school could procure from them. So that's why it's really important to watch our website to see what RFXs are going out, and particularly the RFQs or the RFPs or the bids, because that's your opportunity to get established in our system as a strategic source vendor. And then any school, if they have the budget, could procure any amount of goods or services they want from you. Okay. Then, so I talked about how important our MWBE objectives are within CPS. So we have a department that's dedicated to both measuring how much business we're doing with MWBE, to know where we are in terms of our inclusionary procurement practices. But even more important than that, to me, is to identify where there are gaps in participation versus what we think should be there. And so we will work with city assist agencies when we see a shortfall in participation in a given category to say, hey, we're not seeing any Hispanic brick masons. We're just not getting a lot of representation on there, when we know actually 48% of our students at CPS are Hispanic. So we want to make sure our work, the people who work for us represent our communities. So that's what this group will do is focus on both measuring where we are and then look at how we develop. So for each contract, we have an aspirational goal where it's President Frank Clark, who is our board president, has set the aspirational objective to say, on any given agreement, we want to get 30% minority representation or 7% women representation. We do accept certifications from City of Chicago, Cook County, the state of Illinois, and national certifications as well at this point. What we will do when we, on this point of contract-specific goals, again, 30 and 7 is our aspirational goal. When we go out to procure our enterprise software that happens to be provided by Oracle, they are a publicly traded company. That's something that it really is not further divisible because we download that information from the cloud. There's no distribution system. We just deal with Oracle and write them their license payment, their licensing fee. Whereas in something like furniture, which again, a lot of the furniture companies are publicly traded companies, we look at what is the installed price. So we will bid on what's the installed price to CPS. And then we look at that supply chain to say, okay, the actual lectern may cost $80, but the delivery and setup might be worth $20 on a $100 bid. Well, in that case, we talk to that supplier, say, hey, part of our MWBE program, please find an MWBE to do that delivery and installation for us. So we will set, in that case, a contract-specific goal to say, your goal on this is 20% MWBE on the $100 lectern. On $100 of software, unfortunately, at this point, we can't set a contract goal because there's nothing available. And yet there are other types of agreements where we say, hey, should be feasible to hit this 37% number. And in the case of our integrated facility management suppliers, they've done a great job of, for the subcontract services that they provide to our schools, I think we're at 40 and 10? Yeah, the goal is 40 and 10, and we're actually exceeding that in terms of finding local providers of landscaping and custodial services, snow cleaning, all the things that go around keeping our grounds and facilities in shape. So that's where, again, we tailor our MWBE objectives to what's feasible. When the numbers look lower than what we'd hoped for, that's when we reach out to assist agencies to identify opportunities for better participation or increased participation. So just some of the rules of, for any of you, do not start work unless you have a purchase order. Everyone in our system knows that. If someone asks you to do work without a PO, say, I'm sorry, but I really need to have a PO before I start work for you. Right? That's self-preservation right there. Because I could be Mr. Nasty CPO and say, hey, no PO, not valid, right? Sorry. Yeah. We're not that nasty, but we set the rules to try to make sure people understand it, the intent, and comply with it. And then, another key thing we hear, people say, CPS, first of all, they hear about the $1.5 billion prior budget deficits. You folks must have trouble paying. Actually, we don't. We can say, actually, among the feedback we get is that we are one of the faster paying city agencies if you make sure to send your invoices electronically. When they go in electronically, they immediately get a timestamp on them, and we have a our accounts payable department does a really good job of turning these around in 30 days. And I personally have had a wide variety of suppliers come in, hey, I'm not getting paid from you, haven't been paid for 5 months or whatever. And it's like, all right, that's not right. So we go research it. A lot of times they send it to the wrong email address, right? Or just silly stuff. But usually if our system is followed, it works and people get paid. Then if there's an issue on the PO or a question on the PO, always go to the user group because they're the ones who originate it. So they should know what they want and why they want it and what they expect to pay. However, if something isn't going the way it should, or you have questions they can't answer, then always reach out to us at purchasing, and we have a catch-all mailbox, but we have 2 different people who monitor that every day, so we do try to be on top of that. And then back on the invoicing or inquiries, one can, on payment, can contact accounts payable at cps.edu. Or, again, if you don't feel you're getting the response there or you're frustrated by that, we try to work together and then reach out to us, or to your buyer, or, at last resort, the purchasing.cps.edu, and we'll try to help you out and figure out how to get that taken care of. Then, if you are interested, we do post on our website what the upcoming solicitation opportunities are. That's the best way to do it. We also advertise it in a newspaper, but I'm not sure. Well, people do read the newspaper. Anyone here from the newspaper business? No. But usually the best way is to just keep an eye on our website, and the fact is we do put on there our upcoming solicitations that are going out. Now on that, when you do, when you do respond, when you see an RFP that's out there and you do respond to it, typically on our bids and our RFPs, anything other than a construction, we have an online system to submit the proposal. One of the things we often see is suppliers don't realize that it takes more than 30 seconds to upload that. And so we may have a 5 o'clock on, like we had one just recently. It was right on the website, 5 o'clock, March 30th, got to be in by then. It closes off. Well, we can monitor the activity on our online submission. Someone started submitting at 4:55 on Friday, and the window comes down hard on that. Hey, if it wasn't completed by 5 o'clock, you get cut off. And we tell people you better start, going online a couple hours before to make sure you can upload the documents you need. And that's where, again, based on bid guidelines, unless we made a mistake, unless, for instance, our system was down for 2 hours, we won't accept it if it's not submitted before that deadline. That's just, one of the rules we have to comply with to be fair to all providers. And, so that's just a word of encouragement to make sure you allow enough time when you submit online to any proposals. So, did I run over my time? How about that? Yeah. Any questions for you folks? Yeah.
So, the company I work for, we were awarded a contract through City of Chicago a while back, and before I started. And they're on page 10 of this of the solicitation documents, examples of local agencies that can tag along to that. First one is Chicago Board of Education. CPS isn't listed specifically.
Well, that is us.
Okay.
Yeah, so, that's one of our pseudonyms.
Okay.
Yes, Chicago Board of Education is Chicago Public Schools.
So, do you, on a regular basis, on occasion, use the piggyback from these other contracts? Or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, when we identify a need, one of the first things we'll do is look to see are there any other city agency agreements that we can piggyback. So we do use them frequently. In fact, we are able to, under our rules, we are able to piggyback any governmentally bid solicitation, and there are a few different groups that we're part of, like U.S. Communities and what's it, NIJPA? Yeah. Yeah, that's our classification system. Right. Yeah, but there's a few different ones that are nationally based that we can also piggyback. Okay. So to be expedient, we will use those. We do look at those first.
So if you have vendors, if you will, that have these contracts that are set up or have been awarded with pricing limits and things of that nature, are you able to just go to that particular vendor if they have a product or service you need or want? Yeah. Or does it still have to go out to bid if there's over?
No, it doesn't have to go out to bid. If it was competitively bid, then we can rely on that pricing. One difference, though, is we do have some different terms and conditions primarily because of the ISB, the Illinois State Board of Education rules on how we have to write our contracts. So frequently what we will do is we will take that piggyback contract, we will hand it to our lawyers and say, do you see any issues with us? Here's what we'd like to do. And they may come back and do some slight modifications to the terms or the conditions. Then we would give them back to the supplier to say, hey, can you accept these?
And you're talking about buying directly versus going out to bid.
Yeah. That's how we piggyback.
Okay.
Is we will have to, usually we'll have to tune the terms and conditions to meet the rules governing CPS. But, yeah,
we're going to actually hold the rest of the questions.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Thank you. No, don't drop it, the batteries fall out.
Okay, I'll try not to. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay, I'm doing that Verizon Wireless. My name is Sheila Johnson. I'm the District Director of Procurement Services for City Colleges of Chicago. Just like CPS, we are very proud of who we service, which is over 80,000 students that we service on a yearly basis. We're also glad that we have 7 main campuses and satellite institutions that go along with them. We've listed them for you. Richard J. Daley, which you know we are building a new advanced manufacturing and engineering facility. It is out now being built. We are also building a new transportation, distribution, and logistics center for Olive Harvey College. So we're excited about the new programs and the program-specific curriculum that we are now doing at City Colleges of Chicago. You all know that we opened a new Malcolm X College in 2016, which is our main hub for our medical and health sciences. So we are extremely proud of all the accomplishments that we are doing to help foster post-secondary education for those who may not be for a 4-year institution, but are looking for maybe to start in the workforce, learn a trade, learn a skill, and even leverage our institution in bridging to a 4-year institution. We also partner with CPS, and we offer scholarships, and it's the STAR Scholarship that we've been offering. So all of those students that have a wonderful GPA can come over to City Colleges and actually go to school on our dime. So we're excited about that. I'm just going to talk a little bit about our spending conditions. Just like CPS, we have state statute that we have to abide by. We fall under the Illinois Public Community College Act. And it says that everything over $25,000 for city colleges needs to be publicly bid. But within city colleges, our board has decided that there are rules that we are to abide by. So any purchases between between $1, $0, and $2,500, is not required for bidding. So that means the school can contact you, they don't have to fill out a bid recap form, and they can just do their purchase order on their own. Purchases between $2,500 up to $25,000 require 3 written quotations. So they would go out and find 3 vendors. One needs to be a certified and minority women-owned business, and they would fill out a bid recap, and then they would issue their purchase order. And then for all of those items that are over $25,000, a formal bid is required. Just like CPS, we belong to a lot of the purchasing consortiums. We belong to U.S. Communities Procurement Alliance. We belong to E&I. We also belong to National Joint Powers Purchasing Alliance. We leverage a couple of other procurement consortiums as well. And we also piggyback between the sister agencies. So I'm actually right now getting ready to use one of CPS's contracts for sign language interpreter services that we need to service our students. We piggyback off of the City of Chicago. We just did that, thank you, City of Chicago, in leveraging their janitorial supplies. So we're actually going to do that. So we're excited about what we're able to do amongst the city agencies and how we can leverage each other's already bid that they have done. Okay? And for us, if you want to do business, you can contact the actual using departments. So they have what we call a spending tolerance up to $25,000. So we do have board contracts, what I'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation. But if you want to become a supplier with us, there is a form on our webpage. And you can actually submit it online. So you don't have to print it out. You can fill it in online and submit it to us. It comes directly to our procurement web box, which we have a web page and a web box, email box that we search and service as well as CPS. So it's a 2-page vendor application. We require a W-9 because we need to know who you are and who the IRS says you are. We ask you to look at our terms and conditions. It used to be printed on the back of our purchase orders, but now we have you sign them up front. So you know what the terms and conditions are for City Colleges of Chicago. We do ask that you read and acknowledge our ethics orientation. It talks about, and a lot of vendors get confused because it talks about an annual training. You do not need to do an annual training. The employees of city colleges have to do an annual training, but we want you to be aware of what our ethics policy is. And then we also abide by the National Institution of Governmental Procurement or Purchasing commodity codes. And it's something that we all use at all of the sister agencies. It helps us track our spend. It helps us plan for those strategic items so we can kind of look at what we're spending on a logistic or a whole wise to make sure that we're leveraging and saving the taxpayers' dollars. So we'll ask you to fill it out. So you'll tell us what you supply. If you are professional service, it starts like in the 900s. If you do consulting services, 918-00 starts our consulting services. If you supply hardware, if you supply keyboards, 204-53, I believe, is the actual item number that you would actually select. For those suppliers who want to be paid via ACH, which is very much faster because our payment terms are 60 days. So net 60 if you want a check. If you want ACH, it's 45 days. You will actually go to that particular link. It actually works in this presentation, and it will take you to the form you need to complete, send to us, and we upload that information in your vendor registration number, and you'll be paid in 45 days once the invoice is submitted. If you want to get paid even faster, we have the use of U.S. Bank. And it is 15 days, and you will actually go to U.S. Bank, and you will pull down your own payment. So you would need to work with U.S. Bank and your bank to kind of establish how you can go in and pull down your payment, and that is in a 15-day turnaround. So we actually have a lot of vendors who are now going online with that. We do ask that if you're an existing vendor, if you're updating your information, that you send supporting documentation, because we just want to make sure with all of the breaches, and this is an electronic age, that we know that you're asking us to update your information. If you want to update your bank information, usually that's kind of sent formally to me so that we know the hands that are being exchanged, and then we make sure we keep that information confidential. We've also listed the actual page where you can become a vendor with us if you are not already a vendor with City Colleges of Chicago. We would love to have you. Some initiatives that we're going to have to kind of catch up to where CPS is we're working on an online supplier registration. I know if you participated in this last year, we were working on it, but of course we're as good as the resources that we have. So we're anticipating fall, early winter, we'll be online live with that. If you are a current vendor with us, you will be sent a notice with a unique supplier ID number, and it'll tell you to create a password. If you are not a current vendor and you still haven't become a current vendor by the time we move forward with this initiative, you will go online and you will have to register. It will actually come to our department for approval. If you do not supply all of the information, you will not be able to move forward. With that will come great things, because you'll be able to actually print your own POs. You'll be able to do PO acknowledgments. We'll also be able to leverage the EDI experience with invoices and tracking payment. You will be able to update your own vendor information, so you don't have to send it to us. So it'll be more user-friendly for the vendor community as well as City Colleges of Chicago. Okay. And training for those will be 2 months prior to the actual rollout. These are some of the common items that we procure at City Colleges. We do a wide variety of things, just as all of our sister agencies. Of course, you know, we have building and maintenance repair items. We do construction, janitorial supplies, I mentioned before, scavenger services. By us having a medical program in health sciences, we do a lot of medical and nursing supplies, bus transportation because we have athletic teams. We also have child care centers, so they need to take trips. We do those. We also have a TRIO program that allows students who may be underprivileged to travel and experience different colleges and universities to see where they may want to go after City Colleges of Chicago. We buy uniforms, whether it's programmatic or whether it's custodial uniforms. We do that. Office supplies, textbooks, and those textbooks are for our unique programs. We buy textbooks for our adult education program, besides just the regular books that we buy through the bookstore. So there are some specialty books that we buy, child care and those type of things. There are trade books that maybe Wash Farm needs, who is our culinary school, cafeteria and vending services, advertising, furniture, and the list goes on. You can actually look at our contracts on the webpage. It's www.ccc.edu/pages/contracts. And the link actually works in the presentation. Just like CPS and all of our sister agencies, we all have a minority and women-owned business enterprise plan and goals. For City Colleges, it is 25% for minority business enterprises and 7% for women business enterprises. As you can see, we say that prime vendors on contracts over $25,000 are expected to meet these goals. No exception. If you ask for a waiver, you need to write me a 50,000-page dissertation, and it needs to be notarized. Okay? Those are subject to review and approval. They're not guaranteed. We do push for direct participation because these programs are important to grow smaller businesses. It's there to help bring economic value through the city of Chicago. So we are, and our chancellor and our board, all are behind these goals. We are not a certifying agency, but we do accept certification from the City of Chicago, of course, the State of Illinois, Cook County, Women Business Development Center, and the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council. So those are the 5 entities we accept certifications from. Okay? And then lastly for me, I think John actually talked about a lot of the things that we have in common, so there was no need for me to kind of rehash it for you. I'm giving you our contact information. I report to Diane Miner, who is the Vice Chancellor of Administrative and Procurement Services. And in our shop, we do procurement services, we do contract compliance and review of our minority and women-owned business plan. We also do contract administration. We also are responsible for capital, the auxiliary services, and I think that's everything that we do under Vice Chancellor Diane Miner. Myself, I am the lead for the procurement area, Sheila Johnson. My number is there. My email address is sjohnson3@ccc.edu. That's sjohnson3@ccc.edu. I'm always excited to meet new vendors to talk about potential opportunities, or even just introduce myself to you and you introduce your services to me. We're always amenable to that. We believe that the more we touch the community, the better we are as an organization, because there are a lot of things out there that we may not know, but so we're always eager to learn what people can offer unto us. I have a buyer, Marietta Williams-Johnson. We have a buyer assistant, Dominique Cheris. Lisa Lewis, who is not here today, she is the manager for contract administration and compliance. That is my counterpart, who looks and reviews all of your bid solicitations to make sure it's in compliance with our minority goals. So that's who you would hear from. Christine Gutierrez is a contract administrator. She actually reviews all the bid recaps, and she works on our overall goals and reporting those to the board. And I always include our risk manager, because any bid that we do over $25,000, he is involved, because he is making sure that the insurance requirements for that bid is up to par. So he's always a part of procurement services. And as I said before, we have our own email, which is procurementservices@ccc.edu. Okay? Are there any questions about city colleges or anything?
So, on your...
Sorry about that, guys. I'm going to go over now with the mic, and I hope it's okay if you guys share your lapel.
Sure.
Is that okay?
For the your MBE, WBE goals,
Yes.
what if the prime is an MBE or a WBE? Are you still looking for them to have?
Yes, you
Okay.
still need to meet the other half of the goal. If you are an MBE, it depends on the value of the contract, and we let you make that determination. Sometimes we offer suggestions to you. If it's a high dollar value, we would tell you that it's in your best interest to do the
Sure.
minority piece of it, and
Sure.
you still have to comply with the women business.
Okay, and then we're a minority woman business enterprise.
Okay.
Does the city have a listing somewhere of small subcontractor, companies that would be looking to be subcontractors to a larger company?
We don't, but you can actually contact me. I'll give you my card after this, and we can kind of work together to see what it is you're looking for and try to match you with vendors.
Perfect.
One of the things that we're going to start doing is trying to reach out to the vendor community, especially our minority and women-owned businesses, to see how we can encourage them to bid. We want to see you be prime contractors and not subcontractors. So that's what our plan is, and we're putting together a plan right now to try to figure out how to do those outreaches, maybe through some of the assist agencies we're looking at, and even trying to host some things on our own to say, hey, we're looking at these particular bids in the near future. Here are the forms. Here's what, City College's expectations are. And maybe even doing our own workshops and talking about how to fill out our forms at City Colleges of Chicago. We know the city does a great job about doing that and walking you through their forms, but we're thinking about and we're putting a plan together on doing that.
And then one more.
Sure.
Sorry. You listed the Chicago Supplier Diversity Council.
Yes.
Do you take the national or any of the other?
We have, but that is on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
We're in Tri-State.
Okay.
So.
And I will mention, so the city has 2 main events every year. We have our construction summit, which is in February that just passed, and we also have our vendor fair that's coming up. I believe the date has now changed to July 12th. So that's a really good opportunity for you to, as a vendor community, come out to these events where we'll have hundreds of government agencies under one roof, where you can have the people who are purchasing the stuff there with your questions, materials. I mean, we have workshops there. We had over 1,000 people attend last year's, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger. So we definitely encourage you to come out into the community and come to these events.
And on our webpage, as I've listed here, you can actually go and get information about contacting the schools. We encourage you to contact all of the 7 locations. We've actually given you the right contact person. And I tell all of the vendors, when you reach out, if you don't hear anything, contact me. And I make sure that you'll be able to introduce yourself, because we're as good as the vendors that we, bring to the table. So we always are looking, and we're always excited about any new partnerships and relationships we can establish. LED lighting, I would love to see you after this. We're always looking to save money, save energy. We have a sustainability manager I would love to introduce you to. You tell me you're IT. Okay, we just got a new CIO. Actually, she'll be confirmed tomorrow. So we'll make sure we exchange cards so we can get you right in front of her. You know, we're under new leadership. New things are happening at City Colleges of Chicago. You know, different views. You know, there's an opportunity, a wealth of opportunity to just go around. So I'm encouraged. Make sure you stop and see me and just have a little chat with me, or even exchange cards so that we can have conversation after this and just meet and talk about what you can provide and what our needs are at City Colleges of Chicago.
All right. Anyone else? One question. That's right. One question.
Yeah, if I go back to CPS, I missed on what the RFQ was. Is that a way to get on a vendor list?
Yeah, an RFQ would be if we need IT consulting services. And so our IT department sets us up a scope and says, here's the array of the different types of IT services we'll need. Then that RFQ gets posted, and then however many suppliers respond, that the user group and the evaluation committee says, great, this fulfills a need, here's the pricing schedule, then they are put into the pool. No, you don't have to be sponsored. You can just
So you have to just keep watching the...
Yeah.
So for instance,
Yeah,
use
look.
myself as an example, I'm a graphic designer.
Yeah.
So it's not these big, huge contracts.
Sure.
Is there a way on either of your sites that I can go and I can search by my field? Or do I have to scroll through these other kinds of contracts? How can I...
Well, what we do is we go on the website and you can look at the list of upcoming solicitations, and on there it lists what types of solicitations they are
So
that are
you've got to
upcoming.
kind of read through them all. There's no way to search by...
It's
by
not that
topic.
overwhelming.
Oh, it's not? Okay.
Yeah. It's not 4,000 items. Yeah. Yeah. It's manageable.
And for City Colleges, for me, I would actually put you in contact with our Associate Vice Chancellor of Marketing. That's not a service that we actually bid. It's kind of those things that are as it's needed. So I would put you in contact with her so that you...
Would my WBE be a benefit to her?
Yes, it would. It would. It would be a benefit to the entire district. So, yes, I would put you in contact with her, and we can talk about that after this.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So only thing I was saying, with the cleaning, because I do cleaning, trash out, debris removal, where will I fit in with the cleaning for the Chicago Public Schools or City Colleges?
Well, I can answer for us. Most of that now is migrated to a professional integrated facilities management company. So the two that we're using right now are Sodexo and Aramark. And they are the ones who subcontract for us. And they're the ones that we have a 40% MBE and 10% WBE goal, which we monitor with them. But give me your information. I'll make sure we forward that on to
Okay, so
both
what you
sections.
saying, I have to go through them as
Yes.
a prime, and I'll be
Yep.
a subcontractor?
Correct.
Because I'm a WBE as
Yep.
well as an MBE and DBE, so.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, only one of those. We can only use one at a time.
That's fine.
And I think for City Colleges, if we can connect, you can probably work with our culinary area. They actually need kitchens cleaned, and we're always struggling to try to find vendors who can do it in a timely fashion and do it correctly. So we can talk about that.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Once again, we definitely encourage you to follow us on social media. If you'd like to go back and watch this video, it will be available on YouTube. This is the link, YouTube, and we are on YouTube, we are on Facebook, and we are also on Twitter. And the handle for all three is Chicago DPS. We'll go ahead and wrap up, and then we'll stay behind for any other additional questions that you might have once we're offline. So thank you so much.